everybody. Day 3, and I'm actually getting it done during the day, not another midnight filming like last night. Hey, very excited. It's a bit different lighting. Opened up the blinds, actual daylight. Still have the other lights on, but I'm excited to be here with you. Excited to read a chapter or two, see how long it is. I hope you're having a good day. I really do. Let's read together. So we got a picture. This chapter 4, is called Birtwick Park. And there's the picture that she drew. Let's see. At this time, I used to stand in the stable, and my coat was brushed every day till it shone like a rook's wing. It was early in May when there came a man from Squire Gordon's, who took me away to the hall. My master said, "Goodbye, darky. Be a good horse, and always do your best." I could not say goodbye, so I put my nose in his hand. He patted me kindly, and I left my first home. As I lived some years with Squire Gordon, I may as well tell something about the place. Squire Gordon's park skirted the village of Birtwick. It was entered by a large iron gate, at which stood the first lodge, and when you trotted along on a smooth road between clumps of large trees, then another lodge and another gate, which brought you to the house and the gardens. Excuse me. Beyond this lay the accommodation for many horses and carriages, but I need only describe the stable into which I was taken. This was very roomy, with 4 good stalls. A large swinging window opened into the yard, which made it pleasant and airy. The first stall was a large square one, shut in behind with a wooden gate. The others were common stalls, good stalls, but not nearly so large. It had a low rack for hay and a low manger for corn. It was called a loose box, because the horse that was put into it was not tied up, but left loose, to do as he liked. It is a great thing to have a loose box. Into this fine box the groom put me. It was clean, sweet, and airy. I was never in a better box than that, and the sides were not so high but that I could see all that went on through the iron rails that were out at the top. He gave me some very nice oats. He patted me, spoke kindly, and then went away. When I had eaten my corn, I looked round. In the next stall to mine stood a little fat gray pony with a thick mane and tail, a very pretty head, and a pert little nose. I put my head up to the iron rails at the top of my box and said, "How do you do? What is your name?" He turned round as far as his halter would allow, held his head up and said, "My name is Merrylegs. I am very handsome. I carry the young ladies on my back, and sometimes I take our mistress out in the low chair. They think a great deal of me, and so does James. Are you going to live next door to me in the box?" I said yes. "Well then," he said, "I hope you are a good-tempered. I do not like anyone next door who bites." Me either, boy, me either. Just then a horse's head looked over from the stall beyond. The ears were laid back, and the eye looked rather ill-tempered. This was a tall chestnut mare with a long, handsome neck. She looked across to me and said, "So it is you who have turned me out of my box? It is a very strange thing for a colt like you to come and turn a lady out of her own home." "I beg your pardon," I said. "I have turned no one out. The man who put me here, and I had nothing to do with it. And as to being a colt, I am turned 4 years old, and am a grown-up horse. I never had words yet with a horse or mare, and it is my wish to live in peace." "Well," she said, "we shall see. Of course I do not want to have words with a young thing like you." I said no more. In the afternoon, when she went out, Merrylegs told me all about it. Excuse me. The thing is, said Merrylegs, Ginger has a bad habit of biting and snapping. That is why they call her Ginger. And when she was in the loose box, she used to snap very much. One day she bit James in the arm and made it bleed. And so Miss Flora and Miss Jessie, who are very fond of me, were afraid to come to the stable. They used to bring me nice things to eat, an apple or carrot or a piece of bread, but after Ginger stood in the box, they dare not come, and I miss them very much. I hope they will come again, if you do not bite or snap. I told him I never bit anything but grass, hay, and corn, and could not think what pleasure Ginger found in it. Well, I don't think she does find pleasure, said Merrylegs. It is just a bad habit. She says no one was ever kind to her, and why should she not bite? Of course, it is a very bad habit, but I am sure if all she says be true, she must have been very ill used before she came here. John does all he can to please her, and James does all he can, and our master never uses a whip if a horse acts right. So I think she might be good-tempered here. You see, he said with a wise look, I am 12 years old. I know a great deal, and I can tell you there is not a better place for a horse all round this country than this. John is the best groom that ever was. He has been here 14 years, and you never saw such a kind boy as James is. So that is all Ginger's own fault, and she did not stay in that box. We've got a little picture here, 2 horses. And we're going to start on the next chapter, A Fair Start. Looks like that might be Black Beauty and Ginger. The name of the coachman was John Manley. He had a wife and 1 little child, and they lived in the coachman's cottage very near the stables. The next morning he took me into the yard and gave me a good grooming, and just as I was going into my box with my coat soft and bright, the squire came in to look at me and seem pleased. John, he said, I meant to have tried the new horse this morning, but I have other business. You may as well take him around after breakfast. Go by the common and the high wood, and back by the watermill and the river. That will show his paces. I will, sir, said John. After breakfast he came in and fitted me with a bridle. He was very particular in letting out and taking in the straps to fit my head comfortable. Then he brought the saddle, and that was not broad enough for my back. He saw it in a minute and went for another, which fitted nicely. He rode me first, then a trot, then a canter. Then when we were on the common, he gave me a light touch with his whip, and we had a splendid gallop. Ho, my boy, he said, as he pulled me up. You would like to follow the hounds, I think. As we came back through the park, he met the squire and Mrs. Gordon walking. They stopped, and John jumped off. Well, John, how does he go? First rate, sir, answered John. He is as fleet as a deer, and has a fine spirit, too, but the lightest touch of the rein will guide him. Down at the minute of the common, we met one of those traveling carts, hung all over the basket, rugs, and such like. You know, sir, many horses will not pass those carts quietly. He just took a good look at it and then went on as quiet and pleasant as could be. They were shooting rabbits near the high wood, and a gun went off close by. He pulled up a little and looked, but did not stir a step to left or right. I just held the reins steady and did not hurry him, and it's my opinion he has not been frightened or ill-used while he was young. That's well, said the squire. I will try him myself tomorrow. The next day I was brought up for my master. I remember my mother's counsel and my good old master's, and I tried to do exactly what he wanted me to do. I found he was a very good rider and thoughtful for his horses, too. When we came home, the lady was at the hall door as he rode up. Well, my dear, she said, how do you like him? He is exactly what John said, he replied. A pleasanter creature I never wished to mount. What shall we call him? Would you like Ebony, she said. He is as black as ebony. No, not Ebony. Will you call him Blackbird, like your uncle's old horse? No, he is far handsomer than old Blackbird ever was. Yes, she said. He is really quite a beauty, and he has such a good-tempered face and such a fine, intelligent eye. What do you say we call him Black Beauty? Black Beauty. Why, yes, I think that is a very good name. If you like it, it shall be his name. And so it was. When John went into the stable, he told James that master and mistress had chosen a good, sensible English name for me, and that meant something, not like Marengo or Pegasus or Abdallah. They both laughed, and James said, if it is not for bringing back the past, I should have named him Rob Roy, for I never saw two horses more alike. That's no wonder, said John. Didn't you know that Farmer Gray's old Duchess was the mother of them both? I had never heard that before. And so poor Rob Roy, who was killed at the hunt, was my brother? I did not wonder that my mother was so troubled. It seems that horses have no relations. At least they never know each other after they are sold. John seemed so very proud of me. He used to make my mane and tail almost as smooth as a lady's hair, and he would talk to me a great deal. Of course, I did not understand all that he said, but I learned more and more to know what he meant and what he wanted me to do. I grew very fond of him. He was so gentle and kind. He seemed to know just how a horse feels. And when he cleaned me, he knew the tender places and the ticklish places. When he brushed my head, he went as carefully over my eyes as if they were his own, and never stirred up any ill temper. Oh, that part about him being his brother got me a little bit. Okay. James Howard, the stable boy, was just as gentle and pleasant in his way, so I thought myself well off. There was another man who helped in the yard, but he had very little to do with Ginger and me. A few days after this, I had to go out with Ginger in the carriage. I wondered how we should get on together, but except laying her ears back when I was led up to her, she behaved very well. She did her work honestly and did her full share, and I never wished to have a better partner in double harness. When we came to a hill, instead of slackening her pace, she would throw her weight right into the collar and pull straight away. We had both the same sort of courage at our work, and John had offered oftener to told us in. I'm not sure I read that right. And John had oftener to hold us in than to urge us forward. Oh, he more often needed to hold them in than urge them. I get it. He never had to use the whip with either of us. Then our paces were much the same, and I found it very easy to keep step with her when trotting, which made it pleasant, and Master always liked it when we kept step well, and so did John. After we had been out 2 or 3 times together, we grew quite friendly and sociable, which made me feel very much at home. As for Merrylegs, he and I soon became great friends. He was such a cheerful, plucky, good-tempered little fellow that he was a favorite with everyone, and especially Miss Jessie and Flora, who used to ride him about the orchard and have fine games with him and their little dog Frisky. Our master had 2 other horses that stood in another stable. One was Justice, a roan cob, used for riding or for the luggage cart. The other was the old brown hunter named Sir Oliver. He was past work now, but was a great favorite with the master. So this is actually a picture from 101. I wonder why they've put it all the way up here. But it's quite beautiful. I'll go ahead and show you, and I'll try and remember to show you again at page 101. It says, she chose me for her horse. It's also the picture that's on the cover. There. And then on the other page, it says, from page 2, my mother and I. Beautiful. Oh, let's finish that sentence. So, named Sir Oliver, he was past work now, but was a great favorite with the master, who gave him the run of the park. He sometimes did a little light carting on the estate, or carried one of the young ladies when they rode out with their father, for he was very gentle and could be trusted with a child as well as Merrylegs. The cob was a strong, well-made, good-tempered horse, and we sometimes had a little chat in the padlock, but of course I could not be so intimate with him as with Ginger, who stood in the same stable. And that's the end of chapter 5. Do chapter 6 tomorrow. Thanks for reading with me today. I'll see you tomorrow.